All right. Good evening, everybody. This is our Advanced Hunter Education program on California snipe hunting. My name is Lieutenant Sean Olagi. I'm with the California Department of Fish and Wildlife's Advanced Hunter Education program, which is part of our hunter education program, our general hunter education program. Our duties and tasks are to help you with the how-tos. We're not advanced in any way. You don't have to be an advanced hunter to do this. We're just here to help you try to be successful in the field, giving you the information that you need that you don't get in a traditional hunter education class. Some of the topics we cover, as you might have already seen, cover species-specific type of hunting or different types of equipment. So if you haven't seen any of our videos before, please make sure you check out our YouTube channel, CDFW YouTube channel, and you can see some of the past videos that are there. There's several on waterfowl, and we're coming up to the waterfowl season. So, if you need help and tips for that area, please feel free to visit. Otherwise, you can go on to our Advanced Hunter Education page, and I have a survey there. And if you have certain requests, please fill them out and tell me what you want to see. All right. So tonight we're going to go ahead. I'm going to share my screen. So let me go back out 1 second. There, here. All right. So I am going to share with the sound. All right, here we go. Peter, am I on the right screen?
You are.
All right. I think I've done this a time or two. So here we are with what snipe hunting was. A lot of people might know about it. Some people might have been on one of these type of snipe hunts where your buddy or your friends or uncles or whoever playing a trick on you, take you on a snipe hunt and tell you need to get a gunny sack or a pillowcase or a paper bag, some sticks, and we're going to go out and try to catch these birds that if you yell snipe, 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 they're going to come run into your bag. Well, the joke's on you. If you've done that hunt more than once, you have some problems. We need to get you fixed up. So let's go ahead and start our webinar with our polls. These polls I like to do just to see where you rate. This poll is actually, I'm trying to change the way I do this so that people who are watching this on video can actually participate. So here we go. Here's the launch. So the question is which bird is a snipe? You have A, B, or C. And go ahead and submit your choices there. They all look very similar. And the joke I have is, what do dogs and phones have in common? They both have caller ID. That was bad. But hey, if you guys are liking it, I'll give you a couple more seconds to participate. I see some answers coming in here that pretty shows our experience level. All right. I'll close this off in 3, 2, 1. And I'm going to share the results. So 32% of you said A. 58% said B. And 11% said C. So I'm going to tell you that we have an experienced group here because more than half of you got it right. So the answer is actually B. B is the snipe, and C and A are dowitchers. Those are probably the most misidentified as snipe bird that's out there. But look at the difference and get ready for the next slide. And 95% of you said my joke was funny. All right, let's go to the next one. Now these are going to be flying birds. So let me get the slide going and launch. All right. Which bird is a snipe on this one? You have A, B, and C. And the joke is, how do you know Will Smith is hunting in front of you? You see the Fresh Prince. I thought that was a good one. see the fresh prints. All right, let's see. You guys aren't doing very well. Oh, actually you are. You're doing okay. I'm looking at the results as they're coming in. So nobody's choosing B. That's a good thing. All right, I'm gonna close it in 3, 2. Actually, I'm gonna give you a couple more minutes. There's only half of you have participated. Here we go. Look at them. And 3, 2, 1. I'm gonna end the poll. And I'm going to share the results. And once again, most of you got it right. 63% of you chose the bird C. That is, in fact, the snipe. The other two are, again, dowitchers. And one key feature, which we'll talk about later, is that you'll see this white stripe on the dowitcher, whereas our snipe have these tan bars on the back. And this one you can't really tell, but most of the snipe have white underbellies halfway back. But we'll go into that. All right, not bad. Good choice. All right, so we'll see where you are at the end of the webinar. But tonight we have joining us as a panelist is Peter Tira. He's an information officer with our department, and he has been so since 2017. He's responsible for the northern region and north central region. He's a native Californian, all right, born and raised in Oakland, now lives in Sacramento. And he's a third generation California hunter with 2 teenage sons who also like to hunt snipe. Had a text come in that I had to answer. And we also have Catherine Miller. Catherine, you'll recognize from previous webinars. She's helped us a lot with our bird topics. The last one being I think it was the Eurasian dove that we did. You can see her information here. She's been with the department for 6 years, originally from Arizona. Not sure how many snipe they have there, but she's been hooked on birds for a number of years. And she's very well educated, and she enjoys working with our birds and hanging out with the dogs and family and doing a variety of crafts. So thank you, Catherine, again for joining us. All right. So why are we talking about snipe hunting? Many different reasons, and I'll start off why. Because it's fun. And I'll tell you, since I've been working on this program, I've been thinking about it, and I'm excited for this next snipe season. It's something to look forward to. Peter, what do you think?
It is super fun. It's a very challenging wing shooting experience. It's fun because you get to have fun while most people aren't. Most people are sitting in a duck blind, staring at blue sky, complaining about the lack of weather. And you're out there, you know, going through your shells and trying to hit these challenging birds and having a good time when everybody else is not doing much.
Yeah. Another reason we're talking about is because it's a long season. It actually starts this weekend, coming up the 15th, and runs through January 29th. So it'll entail the whole duck season plus a week. So you have plenty of opportunity coming up.
It's a great way also to get away from the crowds, you know, especially this year. You're gonna have crowded refuges. You know, the roads and the forests are crowded with deer hunters. It's when you go snipe hunting, you pretty much have the whole place to yourself, whether we're talking about the wildlife areas or, you know, the upland fields and a buddy's duck club you may have access to. So that's another great aspect of snipe hunting, is that not many people do it. You don't have to fight the crowds. There's plenty of space, and that adds to the appeal, certainly.
Yeah, and there's also plenty of public land opportunities. We have type A and B and C wildlife areas throughout the state that will have snipe on them. You can also find snipe in pastures. People you may know that have cows or cattle. They may have pastures that when we get some rains or they're doing some irrigations, that will be attractive to snipe. So don't think that you have to go just to a public land area to encounter snipe. They they exist in many different areas.
One of my favorite times to hunt snipe is in November. We mentioned the long season, but mid-November, when pheasant opens up, quails open, waterfowls open certainly. But when you're out stomping around, searching for snipe, much like you would pheasant hunt, you're gonna jump and run across some other game species while you're out there. So you're gonna jump a rooster. You're going to possibly jump a duck. I've encountered quail while out snipe hunting on some edge habitat. So that's really another joy of snipe hunting, is that it's a mixed bag opportunity. You're going to run into likely some other species that are also in season that you'll have an opportunity to get.
Yeah, definitely agree with the way Peter said. I think a lot of you, if you went out on a snipe hunt intentionally during pheasant season, you probably have more success harvesting pheasants than you would particularly hunting for pheasants. So think about that. Next time when pheasant season starts, tell yourself, hey, I'm gonna go snipe hunting. You're gonna find roosters too. Also, there's not much gear or specialized equipment required for snipe. Basically, you need a shotgun, your ammunition. You don't have to have any special pants or anything, just whatever you feel comfortable walking around in. And we'll talk about the different options you have when we get into the gear. And the last reason we're talking about them, Peter.
They're fantastic to eat. They're really good. I mean, when you clean them, they look a little bit like a dove. They're maybe slightly more delicate. We're going to get into some good recipes and ways to prepare them here later on, but they're delicious, and you won't regret your snipe meals for sure. I collect them as the season goes on, kind of keep them in the freezer. Then when I have enough, make a good meal with them.
All right. So as I said, sniper reel, we've looked at a couple of slides already, and basically here's kind of the breakdown of what a snipe is. They have long beaks, they have greenish yellow legs, they have tan stripes on their head and back. You can see that how prolific they are as far as that goes with the tan. There's not too many of the other shorebirds that'll look like that. Here's a really good breakdown of snipe, and we're talking about the Wilson snipe. Some people might have called them jack snipe or common snipe, but technically they've now been named the Wilson snipe, and Catherine will go over that in her coming presentation. But basically, when you look at the plumage, you have brown, black, streaked, and mottled upper parts, providing camouflage while a snipe is on the ground. Adults and juveniles are almost indistinguishable. The tail, the male's tail has two outer feathers that's talked about for drumming or winnowing, and we'll hear about that also later. But the biggest thing that you'll see there, and one of the things that you'll want to know of and recognize, is their escape flight. When forced to break cover, the snipe rises suddenly and flies on a zigzag course, which your shell count will tell you that's how they fly. And they turn sharply one way and then the other close to the ground. So they are quite the gunning challenge, and that's what makes them particularly fun too. Snipe like most of California. You can see here from the map that pretty much the whole state is covered as far as where snipe will be. And at this point, what I'd like to do is go ahead and turn this over to Catherine. So if we'll go ahead and go there, I'll stop my share. And remember, if you have any questions, please use the question and answer function, and any chat will also be looked at, but please try to use question answers. And looks like you're up good there, Catherine. Thank you.
Okay, I think I got everything right, and I think I unmuted myself, which is good. So hello, everybody. My name is Catherine. I work in the Upland Game Bird Ranch, as Sean mentioned, and Upland Game Bird program in the Wildlife Ranch. And I will try to do my best to sort of append to what Sean is talking about. So snipe are a little bit interesting. They're one of those other birds. They don't fit perfectly into what we consider an upland game bird. They don't really fit perfectly into what we would consider waterfowl. They're more kind of in this middle area here where they're using areas that are damp with wet soil, but going up into a little bit of the upland vegetation as well. They are in the order Charadriformes, and that means that they're a shorebird. What makes them unique as well is they're one of very few shorebird species that you can legally hunt. Another one being woodcock, which we do not have this far to the west. And because they are migratory, they are managed under the Migratory Bird Treaty Act and cooperation between the states and the federal agencies. So for California, that means we work with the Pacific Flyway. As Sean mentioned, the name has been a little bit confusing for quite some time. It was established in the 1800s that they were going to consider the Wilson snipe and the common snipe separate species. They decided to merge them together in 1945. That decision was made by the American Ornithological Union. And they merged it into the common snipe, with Wilson snipe being a subspecies. They split that again in 2003. And part of the reasoning is that Wilson snipe have wings that are a little bit different compared to the common snipe, but you're not really going to be able to tell the difference probably unless you have them in hand, but a little bit of a difference there. And Wilson snipe will also have more tail feathers. And when we talk about winnowing, that's where that's going to matter, because winnowing is a sound made with the tail feathers. And so the winnowing sound made by Wilson snipe and common snipe is different. The easiest way to remember it is that common snipe and also jack snipe, which is another phrase that you'll sometimes hear, are old world species, while the Wilson snipe is a new world species. So dowitcher, snipe, and woodcock are among some of the shorebirds that are unique in having these bills that are long, flexible, and then also have what we call sense pits, which are these little divots in the bill, and that lets them feel the food sources in the mud with the tip of their bill. And we'll talk in a minute about what they're eating when they're out in their habitat probing in the mud. But as Sean mentioned, their range throughout the US, as he was teasing me, we do have snipe in Arizona in the wintertime. They're not going to be there during the summer. This area in blue here is all winter range. Purple would be year-round range. And orange up here is the breeding range. So they'll go up into Canada, up into Alaska to breed, and then they'll come south in the winter. And they'll go as far south as the northern part of South America. In California, like Sean mentioned, in wintertime, they're almost completely throughout most of the state except for the desert regions. Really, the only area of the state that they are in year-round would be the Modoc area for the most part. And then they will breed in some of the northern part of the Sierras and some of those wet meadows, for example. In some of those areas, we will find them breeding. Interestingly, though, there is one report from Brunel's book on game birds of a pair nesting in Tejon Pass, which is pretty interesting. That's quite far south for them. So that's a little bit out of range. Most of them are going to be breeding further north. When they migrate, they follow specific pathways, if you will, but they'll kind of go between pathways sometimes on rare occasions. So in January here, you see in California, most of the birds are being reported into eBird, and this is relative abundance in the Central Valley area. By April, birds are moving north, more in Modoc, getting up into Oregon and Washington. And then here, very few birds in July are in California. What is in California is going to be the Modoc area, and birds have moved all the way up into Alaska, and they're breeding. October, they start to move back down. And then by January, they're back here in the Central Valley.
Catherine, I had a couple questions we can answer right now, I think. Are they related to woodcock? You mentioned woodcock before. Are they a same family or? where
They
at?
are, I believe they are in the same order, the shorebird family, and I believe they're in the same family. I would have to double check on that, but I think they are in the same family.
Okay, and then the other question was, would I find them in Owens River Valley outside of Mammoth or Bishop, or does elevation matter too much?
A good question. There have been reports, you can kind of see here in April, you can see a little bit of yellow here, sort of on the east slope of the Sierra. If you're asking about it in terms of wintertime and hunting, probably not very many.
Okay, yeah, I do show it on the California slide when they come back up. It does kind of show them being in Mono County, but not really in Inyo County. So we'll look at that map again later and maybe get that answer to you. Okay.
Those are some good questions. Keep them coming. So their habitat is going to be bogs, fens, swamps, marshes, anything where the ground is going to be damp enough that they can probe. They need to have cover too. In the wintertime, rice fields, sugarcane fields, those are going to be good places for them. Their diet is about 40 to 60% plant, and that's mostly plant fiber. They will take in plant seeds as well. And then the rest of their diet is going to be made up by invertebrates, larval insects, crustaceans, worms, mollusks. Normally with I'll talk a little bit about the vocalizations. I'm actually not going to spend very much time. I'm not going to spend any time talking about their vocalizations. What I'm going to talk about is winnowing, which is something that you can potentially hear on the wintering grounds. It's less likely there, but it's pretty cool noise. Once you learn it, it's neat to hear it. And they will do it on their breeding grounds. So winnowing or drumming is made by spreading out the tail feathers. And both sexes will make it, the male and the female. And they'll do it primarily on the breeding grounds. They'll sometimes do it in the migration areas that they're going through. And what they do is they'll beat their wings really fast. So speed is important. Diving might be a part of that to get up to those speeds. And they've been, this has been simulated in the lab to be about somewhere between 25 and 35 miles per hour. And when they spread their tail out, then there's a vibration of the wind over the tail feathers. And that's the sound that you hear. I'm going to try to play this audio clip. Hopefully it will work. And I apologize. The best one I found for it also has a lot of frogs. So try to ignore the frogs and listen to the winnowing. So that really fast chicka, 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 chicka,
So
is the winnowing sound.
the crescendo sound, right?
Yeah, it does crescendo. Yeah, a little bit. And I think that probably has to do with where they are when they dive, probably too, and where they're how far they have their tail spread out at that point. But it's like I said, it's a unique sound and primarily on the breeding grounds. But you can potentially hear it in other areas too. Sorry. So it's important to talk a little bit about the nesting behavior because what happens in the breeding grounds in Canada affects how successful they are, affects how many birds migrate south, that affects how many birds are on the wintering ground when you go out to hunt. So this is pretty typical of a lot of species that migrate. The males will get there first, they'll establish the territory. The female will arrive, she'll make the nest, and for a shorebird, it's actually a more complex nest. Most shorebirds just find a muddy scrape and that's going to be their spot. But snipe will actually put grasses together and maybe even weave some of them around each other. And that will be their nest. So it's a little bit better of a nest. She'll breed with the males and then she'll lay eggs. Typically, it's going to be 1 clutch per season. If that nest fails, she'll probably re-nest, but that would probably be the only time that she would try to re-nest. So 1 clutch per season, 2 to 4 eggs. And for shorebirds, the egg is actually relatively large. It's actually as much as 15% of the female mass, which is a pretty good sized egg. And she'll sit on that egg for those eggs for up to 20 days, which is fairly typical incubation period for a bird that size. The chicks are precocial. They'll get up and walk in the first hour, their eyes are open. The male will take the first 2. If he's not there at the nest and they'll wander, the hen will get up, she'll get those 2, bring them back and keep them until all 4 have pipped their shells and are up and walking around. They can peck and probe by day 6. They can fully feed by day 10. They get big fast, so they'll double their mass in the first 2 weeks. And by week 3, they're the same size as the adult. But not surprisingly, at 2 months, they're still going to ask to be fed from the parents. And at this time, 2 months into their lifespan, they're going to start gradually spending more time away from the adults and starting to associate in these larger feeding areas. They're not necessarily flock birds, but they'll feed in larger groups of birds. They're on the breeding grounds before they migrate. And so, forgot that. Try to turn off my phone. Sorry about that. So here again, we talked a little bit about what the range is in California. So similar to the other upland game birds, I can take the breeding bird survey data and look at abundance maps. Now for snipe, that's primarily going to be the Modoc area, and it's going to be really only the area where they're being detected on breeding surveys, which happen in primarily June and July. So here you can see these abundance maps, and we can look to see, what years there might be more birds being detected on surveys in a given spot. So basically heat maps. Their mortality is about 50% in an annual year, and we know that from band recoveries. The longest lifespan recorded so far was 9 years, and again, we know that also from a band recoveries, band research. For hunting, it's kind of hard to use anything that comes in from the hunters only because it's a very low number of birds that are reported. They likely are, of the number of birds that are banded, likely most of them, it's not the hunters that are encountering them. It's something else like a predator. And so we're just not getting very many banding reports. The HIP was started in 1998, so the first estimates for that program started in 1999, and I'll put those up in just a moment. Some causes for mortality can be collisions. From the FAA, they'll record the number of strikes by species. So this is just a color map that shows, the states that have had strikes by snipe. They'll hit radio and TV towers, they'll hit turbines, they'll hit windows and lighthouses. And this is primarily because as they're moving through that migratory pathway, like quite a few other bird species, they migrate at night. So they either can't see necessarily some of these things that they can run into, or in the case of windows and lighthouses where there's light, there can be reflections and it can confuse them. So collisions are one cause of mortality. We don't know very much about how pesticides and insecticides affect them, but certainly it can. Once they get down into their wintering area, if there happens to be a severely cold winter, that can affect them. In years where significant portion of landscape is going through a drought, that's going to affect them because, again, these are birds that are foraging in wet areas. So probably like most species, probably the biggest challenge in terms of conservation is habitat. A lot of wetlands have been drained for houses, for malls, for plenty of other reasons. And so without these wetlands, they don't really have a place to forage. They need wetlands to have a little bit of cover. And Sean's going to put up some really good examples of wetlands with cover for snipe. If they don't have that, they are going to have trouble when they breed, they're going to have trouble when they migrate and avoiding predators. They're going to have trouble on the wintering grounds. So some things that we consider as we're looking at how we conserve snipe, both in California and across the US. As I mentioned before, since they are migratory, there is a management component by the federal government. The Fish and Wildlife Service put together a priority information needs document for rails and snipe. And they published that in 2009. In it, they highlighted that some of the needs were a monitoring program done in the breeding season. Again, for California, that's a very small area, so it probably won't affect us as much. Improving the HIP, improving parts collection, and trying to get some better vital rates. So those are pieces of information that we can use in modeling anything from survival in an area and what that looks like in different conditions, whether it be drought or a wet year, to other aspects. So we need a lot more of that information to make those models. I wanted to just show here as far as the HIP estimates. So the hunter line is in dark brown, that's the number of hunters. And then the orange is the bag. For snipe, it trends very well. So you have years where there's a good bag and a good number of hunters. When there isn't as many, when there aren't as many birds out on the landscape and the bag is lower, there's fewer hunters. In California, the way that we approach management is federal collaboration with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service with the Pacific Flyway. We do look at population trends. We look at harvest and hunter trends. And we do that through what was called the annual game take harvest survey. We are still doing some surveys in the upland program, even though a lot of the species on those surveys have transitioned into online reporting with deer tags and things like that. We're still doing surveys in the upland program and we'll continue to do so. And we also see a pretty good trend of hunters to bag for our California estimates. And then we're continuing to encourage research. We do that through a number of different opportunities, but one way is through the Upland Game Bird stamp. When we do a solicitation for proposals, snipe are always a species that can be put forward in one of those proposals as a research project. And I think that's what I have for slides. So I'm going to stop sharing and let Sean continue.
All right, thank you. All right, so we're going to resume where we left off. And I'm back up, correct?
Correct.
All right, perfect. All right, so as I mentioned, it shows probably that's probably Mono Lake, where they shows a year-long range. It's probably around Mono Lake. So north of there, you might have some. The one thing I was thinking about, maybe this east side of Sierras might have issues with ground probing for the snipe after the ground gets really cold. So I'm not sure if that would be conducive to them during the December and January season. So something to think about. That's just a thought. I don't know if it's true or not, but just an idea. All right, so as we also mentioned, snipe have different lookalikes. They have, birds that probably keep people from hunting them just because they don't feel comfortable about the identification features of them. As you can see here, especially in the middle one, I think that one's a long-billed dowitcher. Very similar in look to the snipe, but when you start hunting these, you'll be aware of the different things that keep you from making that mistake. Now, this is kind of an anomaly of a snipe next to a dowitcher. Usually they occupy different types of habitat, where the snipe will be in a more, he is at the edge of the water, he's not in it, but they do like the mud flats with cover, not really the open areas as the dowitcher does. But this is a dowitcher on the left and a snipe on the right. So just so you can kind of get an idea of where you go snipe hunting, just so you kind of have a beginning of it, snipe won't be in a flock. They will not be like flying in a flock as you see in this picture. They won't be sitting on a sandbar or a flat in a flock type of atmosphere on the edge of a point. These are all dowitchers. So if you see a bunch of birds that look like snipe that are all hanging out together, they're not snipe. All right. So they won't be out in the open. They won't be on the mud flat. And they also don't really peep in flight as the dowitchers do. Hopefully you can hear that. Does it come across, Peter?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So these are basically dowitchers peeping in flight. Snipe have a very distinct sound, and this is what you're going to look for or listen for when you're out there in the field. This is their dead giveaway. Kind of a screechy little call. They make that sound when they're flushing. They make that screechy little call, and what I'm gonna do is you'll get a link to this sound, but they call it maybe escape as a sound description. Also in flight, to me, a lot of snipe, they look more angular. They look a lot like the Batman logo in flight. You can see that like a boomerang. Whereas the dowitchers, they kind of tend to extend their their wings a little bit more. You can kind of see this boomerang shape, this, Batman logo shape that you would maybe recognize more so with the snipe. But the sound is definitely the giveaway. All right. So here we are with the dowitcher. You can see how their wing line is more straight. I see that there are a couple maybe here that are more kind of angular, but for the most part, they're usually pretty straight lined with the wings. And this white bar on the back is the dead giveaway. If you see a bird flying away from you that you think maybe a snipe, and you see this white bar on the back, you've got a dowitcher. It's not a snipe. They won't fly in flocks like this either. Here's some other species you may see out there, and these are completely different, but even us as hunters, when we go out snipe hunting or other type of bird, we're sitting in a duck blind, we're going to see a lot of shorebirds during our time period there, and they're just neat to check out. You're going to see some of these that are going to be hanging out there. There's some yellow legs, which I believe is that one. I don't know all of these to tell you the truth, but some have beaks that are upward turned like an avocet. I'm not sure what this one is, but hey, take a birding book with you. It's not a problem. But you notice the atmosphere that these are in, they're out in the open water. That is not where snipe will be. Snipe will hold tight in the cover, and when they're flushed, they will often only fly short distances, often returning to the general area that you flushed them from. There's something about that habitat, that area that you just flushed that bird from, that they really like, and they're going to kind of try to return to it. So when you find that area, walk it very well. You're going to find additional birds in that area. So here, this to me looks like a perfect snipe field. I've hunted fields like this before where they've been disked. There's sometimes there's some disc marks through them, and it's flooded pasture. And basically everywhere where there's like a mud clot, that's kind of exposed, it's not covered with water. Those are places that the snipe like to sit. They'll basically hop along through here. They'll flutter along through here. They'll find different areas where they can probe into this dirt and look for the feed that they want. Okay, so this one's kind of sparse in the sense like there will be other birds out there, but mostly snipe. If you walk it, and this is one thing you have to remember too, is snipe are migratory, so they may not be in the area at the time that you're there. You might have to check this field out again at a later time. Why don't you go ahead and talk about this one, Peter? Is this the whole
Yes.
trail of snipe?
No, this is generally what you want to stay away from. Although this might be the view from your duck blind, it's not a place you want to look for snipe. Again, other shorebirds tend to prefer this open water, sheet water type habitat. Snipe wants some cover around them. They need that moist soil, but you'll see them more in that upland cover that Sean showed you earlier in a few of those other slides. And getting back to points that both Catherine made and Sean made, snipe are migratory. I mean, when you find them in big numbers in a field, that's when you need to hunt them. If you try and come back a week later, they might all be gone. So you kind of need to, then they're sort of mysterious, right? We don't know exactly why they do what they do. They migrate at night. But when you find them, that's when you want to make a point to hunt them, and not a week later or 2 weeks later, because they very well could be gone.
And when it comes to this field, let's say your duck blind is out here and you want to hunt maybe for snipe on the way back, maybe you jump some along the levee. Those are the type of areas that they will be, is along the levee sides, where some cover and shallow mud.
And that's how you usually find them as well. You can't really scout for snipe. You have to get out in the fields and kind of walk around. So if you're duck hunting or pheasant hunting, that's when you see them, when you're going to pick up a duck in the cover on the edge there and you start jumping snipe. And that's kind of when you encounter them. That's how you know they're around.
All right, here's another perfect snipe field. And you'll see that some of the cover that's out there is a little bit heavier. And like I said earlier, if you go out snipe hunting with the intention of snipe hunting during pheasant season, you are definitely going to find pheasants in these type of areas, because what happens is the pheasant hunters that are staying dry in the upland fields and they don't want to get wet because they have their nice Filson boots on or whatever they have, those pheasants, they go to these areas where there's little islands out in the marsh, and they'll just hold there until nighttime when they want to get back to their roost or whatever. But they'll stay on these little pockets of land out in the middle of the water, just to avoid having more conflict with hunters. So this area, you can see shallow water where there's still some mud flats exposed, but there's cover. Great area for snipe. Great area for ducks. You'll find mallards holding in some of this stuff. You'll jump a duck while you're out there in the field.
And I've been out in the middle of those kind of fields, walking around snipe hunting, and had, a flock of ducks kind of fly over to check out what I was doing in range. So you got to kind of be prepared for everything, which adds to the fun of snipe hunting.
Here's another perfect field. These are ones I can picture in my mind. I know where they exist, where you have just the short little range of things. It's like a little islet that's next to the levee. You got to walk this edge here and see what you can find. If you have enough guts to go out, across the shallow water and hunt this island out here, that's another place that you're going to find a lot of snipe, is along the edges of these little islands. They're very, very good for finding snipe or pheasants. As mentioned, you're going to run into these. This is one of our hunter ed instructors. Thank you, Blake. He was out hunting, I'll say a Central Valley refuge. I won't give up your spot, but hunting for snipe, and sure enough, he also got a rooster. So be ready for that. It's a possibility. So let's look at the dates for snipe. As I mentioned earlier, October 15th, it starts this Saturday. There'll be some places where you can go out and pursue them. They might not be in yet. The migration might not have happened. And it continues through January 29th. The daily bag limit is 8, and the possession limit, which is those that you can possess, is triple the daily bag. So each person license, when you're in the field or on a camping trip, you're not at your abode, you can have up to triple the daily bag limit, but you need to follow all the rules as far as the condition that they're in. They have to have a fully feathered head or wing, and make sure that you have proof or possibility tagging for some of these things that you know, when you got them, all those type of things. If you have 24 in your bag while you're in the field, that's not a possession limit. That's a bad day for you. Shooting time is half hour before sunrise to sunset. And let's talk about license and passes. So basically, you need to have our valid hunting license for California, an upland game bird validation, and have completed the HIP validation. These birds are migratory, so that is a necessary validation to have for your license. If you're going to go hunt on one of our wildlife areas, a refuge pass for that area is either a type A or type B. Type Cs don't need refuge passes. But before you go to that refuge, make sure that it allows for the take of snipe. Some areas do not. They specifically say, you know, what species you can have, waterfowl and pheasants only. You know, if snipe aren't listed or it doesn't say all authorized species, then you can't take them on that area. So be sure of what you're going after. Our regulations for this year, if you look them up online, page 51 gives an authorized species for type A and B and C species. And it'll also refer you to specific areas to make sure that the species is authorized. Let's talk about equipment. I'll let you have this one, Peter.
So, one of the challenges a lot of duck hunters have is that, they're tightly choked. They've got their big duck loads. They see some snipe, maybe they want to go after them or chase them, and they've got the wrong loads and the wrong choke basically for snipe, right? It's a lot similar to dove hunting. Small birds, you need a more open choke, and you need, a smaller shot size to be effective. If you try and shoot it with your duck loads and your tight chokes, you're going to blow up the bird and ruin it if you hit it. But you're handicapping yourself unnecessarily, as you will learn quickly if you try it. So the challenge, of course, is that you are likely to run into these other species, right? Perhaps jump a duck or a pheasant. And so number 6 or number 7 non-toxic steel shot are good options to have. We would kind of lean toward the larger size, just in case you get up a rooster in season, you have a chance to take that shot, or you jump a duck in range, you have a confident chance to take that shot. So 6 is a good compromise. Waders versus wet wading. I personally do not like to use waders when I'm snipe hunting. You're going to have to walk a lot. So I just mentally prepare myself that I'm going to get wet. I get my boots, I got my wool socks. It doesn't really get that cold in California. And if you're snipe hunting, probably, the duck hunting's not any good because it's a nice day. So just get out there and walk, pre-prepared to get wet, have a change of boots or socks, clothes in your truck or whatever, so you can change when you're done. But you'll be a lot more comfortable, and you'll just have that mentality that I'm going to go wherever the snipe are, and I don't worry about getting wet. Do you have a hunting dog? Do you want to use a hunting dog? It's a personal choice. I have 2 hunting dogs. I have a lab and a short hair, and I choose to hunt snipe without my dog, mostly because I don't really want to train them up on snipe too much when I've got them trained for ducks or pheasants or other species. But snipe are very erratic flyers. A lot of times they will fly low. They will hug the marsh, hug that upland habitat as they escape. And so it can be an unsafe shot opportunity if you're hunting with dogs and dogs on that snipe's tail. So I personally choose not to hunt snipe with a dog.
Yep, and I echo those sentiments. If I'm gonna go snipe hunting, I prefer just to prepare to get wet, and running around in waders and heavy cover or disc fields or something like that. Just not as fun as just going and having a light pair of boots and jeans that you know you're gonna get wet anyway. So you can either get wet with sweat in your waders, or you can get wet with the water and feel nice and cool about it.
So if you're going to go to a wildlife area too, or someplace where you may be duck hunting or chasing some other species, but you want to be prepared for snipe, keep a changeable choke in your blind bag. Keep a box of number 7 steel shot in your truck or somewhere so that you can make a quick switch, and it will definitely add to your enjoyment of the day if you get to go snipe hunting. So, but you want to have the right equipment. They're challenging, they're hard to hit, so you don't want to handicap yourself, and just be prepared by packing some snipe gear in your bag.
Yep. And here's our last slide for tonight, and it's what do we do with our snipe? Basically, there's plenty of online recipes. Snipe are easy to pluck and clean. Use the whole bird, not just the breast meat. You can see what there is there. You can see Blake had actually submitted this photo where he harvested the hearts too. Hearts, gizzards, those are all things that people like to have either for their snacks themselves or for their trusty dog. My favorite recipe, Jesse's fried snipe. If you look that up on the internet, that's that picture there on the right side of the screen. If you cook this and give it to a friend, you're gonna have a guy who's gonna want to go snipe hunting with you, or guy or gal, whoever it is. You cook this according to the recipe. It's fantastic. You're gonna love them yourself. You're gonna say, oh man, I need to go get some snipe. And whoever you feed them to, or say, yeah, I'm gonna go with you, because it's that good. You can also grill them like you would a dove, or slow cook them with peppers and onions to just infuse that meat with those flavors. You're gonna have a great meal. What do you think, Peter?
That looks good to me. I think the one of the biggest takeaways I think we would say is just give snipe hunting a try. It's really fun. It's pretty easy to identify the birds. Once you go out a couple times, you might go out your first time with an experienced snipe hunter just to help you with bird ID and the confidence of field. But there's so much more to California hunting than just ducks or deer or doves. We have all these wonderful game species. Snipe are certainly among them, and you'll feel like somebody let you in on a little secret while you're out there just having the time of your life trying to get these birds. So we'd encourage you to take advantage of that opportunity for sure.
All right. Well, great way to close. Thank you for joining us tonight. I don't have a topic yet for this next webinar, but look for it soon. I'll have it ready, and I'll have it something that be worth your time. Thank you for joining us tonight. Anybody who's on the recording watching us, please, if you have any topics or suggestions for topics, please look at our Advanced Hunter Education site and fill out the survey and give me some specifics to what you're looking for. My job here is to help you become a confident hunter and keep pursuing the pursuits that you want to go after. And let me help you do that. Our staff, I want to thank Peter, Greg, Catherine, and Robert for answering any questions that we had behind the scenes. Please have a safe hunting season and enjoy what we have to offer. So good night and thank you. Oh, one last question. No, it was an appreciation. All right. We'll see you all later. Thanks. Good night.